Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flex Zone All In podcast. I am Flex Alexander.
I'm Buddy Lewis.
Oh my God, y'all. I'm Kennelia. What's up?
And listen, today I am super excited because we have one of my favorite people here, one of my dearest friends, my love, my heart. We go we go way, way, way back. I mean, you've seen her. She is the opening for Living Single. I don't care, where you are on the side of the planet. When you see her, you know who it is. She has been a VJ. I don't know if you call him VJ, DJ, for BET, for MTV, for just everything. We worked together. We covered Mike Tyson fight, his first fight out with Peter McNeely when he was released from prison. And she's just been all over the map choreographing. She's an iconic figure that I called her and I said, people need to really know, and we got to sit down and have this talk. I want to welcome Miss Leslie Big Lez Segar to the podcast. I could have went on, with so much more.
Me too.
But we want to let
actress,
just
gymnast.
But that's because Flex was there for all of it. Like
all of it.
You know what? 18 years old, 19.
18. I started stand up in '89. I was 18, going on 19.
Yeah, so we've known each other
since
it feels like high school.
Yes,
college, whatever, for a long time.
New York, from Queens,
absolutely,
right?
all
from
day,
Queens,
every day.
all
Official
day.
round of weight, girl. What?
So what is going on, man? Thank you again for being here. I wanted to have you here because I don't think there's enough platforms that you've been on to really, and I'm not saying it because you're here, to really highlight the icon that you are. Like, you have broken down doors for a lot of women. They may not want to admit it. It was hard for you guys to be able to be on camera, talent or producing, without having to do the other stuff. And you did it your way. And we want to celebrate you today for sure.
Yay.
So yes, gotta celebrate you, man. So tell us, where did your love for dancing come from, and gymnastics and all that stuff?
It's like, I was that tomboy. I'm still a tomboy, as you can tell. I just had hand surgery. I'm a mess. But I love my high heels. Don't get it twisted. But I literally was a tom girl, like climbing trees and with all the guys around the corner. And I used to break stuff in my mom's house, furniture, kicking over the chandeliers and everything. So she was like, I got to put you in a class. You got too much energy. So she put me in a trampoline class. And within 30 days, the instructor was like, she needs to be in a gymnastic class. Wow. And so I had already taught myself like walkovers and other stuff, but my form was pretty bad. And so she took me to the YMCA in Flushing, Queens, and put me in there. And within a year, I was in national competition. So that's where the gymnastics came from, like watching Saturday, Wild World Sports and, Olga Corbett and all that other stuff. But I didn't see girls that looked like me. And so it would just be like, there was one, maybe two, I can't think of their names right now, that I had posters of. And that was kind of like my dream. But I'm also a chick from the park, playing handball and after school. And we grew up in the 80s where it was all hip hop. And of course, I'm from East Elmhurst, Queens. So I grew up with like Herbie Lovebug, Kid and Play, me and DJ Wiz and Positive K were all in the same classes together.
Wow.
So these are my people that we, jams in the park, hearing all the hip hop stuff, leaving the house, getting back to the house when the street lights come on. I was exposed to all the breakdancing and stuff there. And then, the roller skating rinks, USA Roller Skating Rink in Queens was like our second home. So that's where everybody was dancing and listening to the hip hop and stuff. And so I started getting into dance by watching them. And then I started like sneaking into the city, into the clubs, and then starting to see like Crazy Legs and all the B-boy battles and everything. And then I discovered house music, and that's all she wrote. My soul was up to the house gods, and it just became, I would see Flex and like his Mop Top crew, very few girls in there dancing and battling and stuff. And I just was like, I would watch and I'd be like, well, nobody's doing any gymnastics. And then I'd be in there, and next thing you know, I just went in one time and started flipping and stuff. And once you feel that you get love instead of ridicule, you're hooked. And that's kind of how it happened. So
it was instant. I remember seeing you, like, who this girl doing that damn backflips and into splits and off the wall? And she would just do the most amazing stuff, man. And there were no women except maybe for Marjorie Smart
Marjorie.
God rest her soul.
Mhm.
At that time, I knew in the house world,
Right.
you know, Marjorie was just, I mean, the epitome of house queen. You know what I mean? Just she was one of the guys, but
Mhm.
still, you know, she was beautiful, but she still could just give it to you on the floor. But nobody did what Les was doing. She would come in, be in a circle. She just whoop, 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 back into a split, get up, spin, hitch kick. Like it
In
was
a dress.
oh my gosh. Crazy. Yes. What was the battle at what's the Sound Factory that you were in?
I have the one with Scoop Lover,
Yes.
Big Daddy Kane's dancer.
Yes.
And I only know that because somebody sent me the footage. That's the best thing that's happened with social media
Yes.
is like people are sending the footage from like the
Yes.
Kilimanjaro's
Oh,
dance
Kilimanjaro.
competition,
Yes,
which was this
yes.
big club in New York and all
Yeah.
these things that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I barely even remembered. I'm lucky if I can remember what I did yesterday. But seeing that footage was just like, I remember it in the moment.
Yeah.
And you can see if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's on YouTube and it's probably on my page somewhere. But I'm itching to get into the circle, like,
yes, you
get
are.
out the way, let's go. I took my shoes off, the whole thing.
Yes, she was ready.
Like, but that's how infectious it was. Like, people don't understand. You know, I went to college on a full gymnastics scholarship. And so but you can only compete for 4 years. And I got into a 5 years master's program for sports medicine. But I didn't want to stay the 5th year. I was ready to like get back to New York and dance. And so I opted out from getting my master's and just took my bachelor's and, you know, started hitting the clubs.
Yeah.
And my mother just couldn't understand, you know, you don't go to the clubs in New York till like 1 a.m., right? So you kind of either work by day and then you go and do whatever you need to do and you come out when, you know, the sun
take
comes
your
up.
little nap.
Yeah. And I was in the clubs every night watching Flex, watching all these guys. Hi-Hat was around, choreographer.
Yes, that's right.
Rachel, who became a dancer for Mariah Carey.
Right.
Josie was around. Like
Josie,
there was a couple of us that were in the, you know, music video world and stuff, but it was just something that just kind of burnt in your soul that you just had to be there. And all the bouncers would let us in because we kept the party going.
Yes.
So it was like you have this little family that's down in the village in Soho of like backpackers and dreamers. And we became family and all of us were broke and hungry.
Oh my God.
Right. And there's like a slew of us and people who've made it, like from Darren Henson, Elise Neal was a video girl, Melissa from... Oh my God, Melissa D'Souza. She was there's like a whole bunch of us.
And God rest his soul, Michael K. Williams.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
He came, that's the great thing about that world, man. You know, people like that came out of that world and went on to do amazing things, man. And going back to what you said, it was like spiritual for me. Like she wasn't lying. We'd be broke. But we up in there, let us in to dance because they knew we were coming to dance. We weren't coming to cause trouble. And if you had $5, you knew when you finished, you was going to Chelsea Diner after because they had the breakfast special for $2.25.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's and New York is the when I tell you it's the craziest because we used to go because you know I went to Howard and we would come up to New York in the you know mid '80s and early '90s. We would go to New York and hang out. It was the craziest thing. This is the craziest thing I ever met. They were trying to decide where we were going to go by who had the best breakfast. I was like, what time is this club over? Like, because we didn't even step out until like, yo, man, it was like, I'm thinking 10, you know, and they were like, oh no, man, we ain't leaving the club. What time y'all going to the club?
Yeah.
Let's see, it's 11:30. I'm going to get some rest.
You take a disco nap.
Disco nap.
Absolutely.
And the craziest thing was in New York, you wouldn't even see the club. You're like, where are we going? And it's like, man, it was like an episode of Batman or Gotham. You walk in a back alley, down some steps, and then around the thing, and it's a gate. And you're like, man, I am terrified right now. And all of a sudden, that gate go up. Watch it, you like,
and as you're walking, you hear.
On the that's right.
And you can't wait. You
like,
take your stuff off,
man, and the sweat and the funk and we would be dripping off the wall. You're like, oh, this is like the only thing I could compare it to is that scene in Blade when they're all in there. And blood starts
That is a perfect.
But that's exactly that's
Yeah.
euphoria.
It's
That's
crazy.
exactly
It was
what
crazy.
we felt
Yeah.
every single time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, it was like magic, and it's like you didn't want to be anywhere else. And I missed
Yeah.
that. Like moving out to LA,
Ah.
having to be at a club at 10 o'clock. They don't really play house music. Like it's been a
No.
hard things. You know, end at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know.
The first time I came out here, and I'm at 1:45, the lights came on. I'm like, what are they doing?
Right.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
Last call. I'm like,
What?
we're just getting out at 1 o'clock.
Exactly.
Like we would go. There was. Do you remember Choices?
Of course.
We would go. We hit some other clubs, Kilimanjaro, Red
I
Zone,
remember
whatever.
Kilimanjaro.
And then we get to
World.
the world. We get to Choices about 1:45, 2.
Let me show you
Yeah.
something.
And then we will dance from 2 to about 5:30. We coming out with the sun up.
coming up
And
Yep,
we going to
people
get
going
something
to work.
eat, and then we go home to sleep, and we turn around,
and do
come
it
back and do
again.
it all again.
So what were the best spots? Like if y'all could pick maybe 2 spots where y'all feel like when you think about that time, it transports you back. Which ones would you name hands down?
Kilimanjaro for me.
Kilimanjaro for real.
Sound Factory.
Sound Factory.
What was
The
one-
World and the Choice.
The world, yeah.
What was the one
And the
that was in the
space.
village that like I said, you went in, you walked down this long hallway, Flex, at like an alley.
I'm not
And you
sure.
and I'm telling you, they opened the gate, and the gate was like a warehouse
Uh-huh.
during the day or something, but it was a
Was it
dance
wasn't
club
a
at the night.
garage? Was it? No.
Wasn't that?
Might have
was
been a
the
garage. I don't remember.
Choice.
Oh yeah,
And
your
my-
membership card.
And you got a membership card. Yep, I got both of them.
Oh my
That is
For the Choice.
hilarious. Studio 54.
Oh, my
Never
God.
Paradise Garage. You had to have a membership card
You
to
had to
get
have a
in.
membership card. to get in.
1986.
Oh
that
my
was.
gosh.
And there were a lot of like parties that moved around.
Right.
There was a thing
Okay,
called
maybe
Wild,
Wild
Pitch.
Pitch.
Okay.
And my brother, shout out to DJ Basil, Tony Touch, all those guys.
Camacho.
Man. Camacho. Like they would be at different spots. And it was certain DJs that when they spun, you made sure you were there because you
Right.
knew
Mhm.
they
Part
would
of the
they were
chain.
gonna go. And like for a house, you knew who it was. For hip hop, you knew that it was Clark Kent or D Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
or Red Alert. You knew if it was Kid Capri. You knew,
Kid Capri.
I mean,
Flex,
it just.
everybody.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God! It was just.
Funk Master Flex
Yeah,
used to
Funk
come
Master
to
Flex.
play.
It was just. It was euphoric, man. And now let's talk about the transition from just going out dancing in the clubs to getting into the industry. Because I know for me, the thing that got me into the dance industry that made that transition was her name was Angela. She worked for Video Music Box.
Mhm.
Remember Tall?
Tall Angie.
Yes,
uh-huh.
yes, Tall Angela.
They were
She-
part of that group 76,
Yes,
69. Her
yes.
and Marcy. Yep.
She came up to me at a club. Of course, I thought she was checking for me. She's like, "Yeah, let me get your number." I was like, "Oh man, this was easy." I'm like, "All right, no problem." She's like, "You know what I'm saying? You want to do a video?" And I'm like, "Yo, what kind of video you talking about?" She's like, "You want to do the video, music video?" I'm like, "All right." I'm thinking she just whatever talking. She called me, and there was a group called Attention, and they were from Buffalo. They had a song called "Crazy About You, Baby." Boom. Goes to do the video. She just brings something nice to wear. I brought my favorite polka dot shirt and my beige pants. So, back then it
Shout
was,
out to Kwame.
yeah, shout out to Kwame. So back in the day, sets were, it was awful. You get a pizza pie, that's it. And you there for 17, 18 hours. I remember being on set, seeing this little young girl on there. She had these little old black sandals, and then she had these kind of like bow tie, hard bottom shoes, and that turned out to be the great June Ambrose.
Mm.
And we met on that video set, and we on it doing our dance, and that was my introduction into. And I'm like, yo, I like this, man. Like this is gonna be on TV. You know what I mean? And then seeing yourself, it just puts you in another place. What was that thing that did it for you? Obviously, we know the Living Single, but was there something before that?
Oh yeah, it was 100 things before
Mhm.
that. I had just gotten out of
Break down
college.
yes.
I literally had just graduated college, flew to New York, and there used to be what called newspapers, Backstage and
Yeah.
Showtime, I think it was called,
Yeah.
that had all the auditions and stuff in the back. So I got to the paper, and there was an audition for a cheerleader for a recording artist group because they were doing a celebrity basketball game. And I've never really cheerleaded, but I'm like, I can do this anyway. There was two things. It was that and another off-Broadway play called Club 12, which was a remake of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So I can't remember which happened first. I think it was probably the basketball game, which turned out to be cheerleading for Full Force for WBLS, which is a major radio station in New York. So this was down, I think, at City College, and every celebrity you could imagine was there. I had no idea. So we do our routine, and I end up doing backflips across the gymnasium, literally from one corner to the other, probably about 10 back handsprings, full twist ending. And that was it. By the time I got to the locker room, business cards was a thing. And everybody was like, I need you in my video. I got this group. They were record labels. It was that kind of thing. And literally you would call these numbers and they was like, somebody would answer and comes to the office and that kind of a thing. So that was one. And then right after or right before, when I auditioned for that play with Club 12, that's where I met Wyclef because he was in the play. Lauren became part of the play. It was put on by Atlantic Records, which was Big Beat, had a label. And that's where a lot of their house artists was. Jay Williams, who had a song called Sweat. So I was in the play as an actress and I had to dance in the play. And then they said they needed a dancer for Jay. I think Barbara Tucker, who's also a singer and a choreographer then, was like, well, we're going to be partners. And that's how I started dancing for Jay Williams. This song became like number one all over the country. And so we're doing not just like small club dates, like 4 in a night, going from Jersey back to Brooklyn, back to the city, back to Jersey, sleeping in the limo at like 6 a.m. on stages as big as this table. And then we went to like Canada and all these places. And like, this was really a big deal for me. So people don't realize that back then in the 90s, all the record executives and all the artists hung out at the clubs. There was like no VIP and all of that, popping bottles and nothing. You could be standing next to Q-Tip and LL's right there and Andre Harrell from the record label, and everybody was approachable and around. And that's really where they got like, they were in the street. That's when street teamers were around and stuff. And so they saw the talent. They saw the dancing. And while people were on the open mic, rap battling, we'd be in the circles dance battling. So they were grabbing people to be like, I need you for my artist. I need you for my artist. And that's really how I got a lot of my work.
Wow.
Amazing.
So did you, at the time, did you feel like the tide was turning for you? Because sometimes when you in the business, regardless of what type, right? What type of performance artist you are, you can feel like, oh, this is about to really pop for me. This is it. Was it that moment when you got on tour and started doing those shows, or was it something else?
No, it wasn't Jay. It was one of the dancers, I think it was Carolyn, who was working with Keith Sweat. And I had been out of college probably, I graduated May. So this is like November now. And then Keith is getting ready to go on tour with BBD, Johnny Gill. Major like artist. So she's like, I got the perfect girl, come down, whatever. So he sees me dancing, like, you're in, just like that. So now I've been working a regular sports medicine job 9 to 5 because my mother's not having it. In the Black household, you're not going to be coming home from college and not paying any bills. What is this dancing? She was already mad that I opted out the 5th year for my master's. So I had to really like make it. And then we didn't have any like contracts or any deal, anything. So I didn't know what like a leave of absence was from the job. But when I told them, they were like, well, just take 3 months off or 2 months or something they gave me, and then we'll hold your position for you. And I was training people for like the marathon and people who had diabetes or paraplegics and all that other stuff. So it was a really high profile kind of a job. But once I got on tour, I never had to look back again, because from that tour, there would be like, guy would show up at my dressing room like, I need you to be on tour. And that's really what it was. Damian Hall would just be like, you need to dance for us after this is over, or I would leave like before the second leg because they offered me so much money or X, Y, and Z, and that's how it happened for Heavy D. And that's kind of how it happened for Bobby Brown. Like, it was just a matter of, you get to Madison Square Garden and you're dancing and you see all the celebrities down there. And usually they're too cool for school. They're just, whatever. But when you see them rocking with the dancers, like, and then they meet you in the back. And that's when they used to let everybody in the back. And they'd be like, yo, you, I need you to. And that's how I got most of my work. And it was just, Mom, I'm not coming back. Kind of like Harlem Nights. Mom, I'm not coming home.
Tell your mama.
That's how it was, though. That was the that was the community. It was like, literally, you went from here to, I would do a video here, do a video there, and then say, this one's going on tour, and this one, and when I connected with Salt and Pepper, like, I was just with them, you know what I mean? I would still do other stuff, but we traveled so much, and we did one tour for like 6 months in the States. It was Salt and Pepper, it was High Five, Father MC, Tony,
Wow.
Troop, and Candyman. And then we did a couple of shows with a group, Stacy and Kamiko, like back in the day. And that tour, I'll never forget that. And that was like, I was like, yo, just you making money. And then they were so supportive. They would come to the comedy club when I was doing comedy. They was like, yo, you should do this on the road. So I started opening and go out, do my comedy, go back, go dance, and I was getting 2-3 checks because we was carrying their bags too.
See, what was crazy though is that Flex didn't really tell anybody that he was doing comedy. And so on Sunday nights, they'd have this place called the Uptown Comedy Club.
Yes.
And he was in there, Tracy Morgan, Bill Bellamy, JB Smooth, like all these guys on the mic killing it every Sunday.
Yeah.
And all of us as dancers are like, what the, who knew?
You know who fault that was, right? Not fault, but who really pushed me was Khalif.
Really?
Because around, we'd be around somebody and I just start imitating them. I just start, and cracking up, and Khalif be like, yo, man. He'd be like, yo, you need to go on stage and do that. You need to, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then finally, he dared me and I went on, and that's what took off. Like really. And I wanted to do it. Like when I saw Delirious, I said, Mom, that's what I'm gonna do. And him saying that, and I always tell that story because, I gotta give him props for that, because him daring me and pushing me, that's what it, and Jackie Brown, Ernest Dickerson, who did Juice, they were there. That's where they saw me and had me come in to audition, and I was close to getting that role. But people started coming to the Uptown Comedy Club. Wesley Snipes would be there. Everybody. She was there all the time.
Every weekend.
Every weekend. It was so dope, man.
I just found your video where I saw it first.
Oh my God.
Les with Martin, and Les did a split on the stage.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And we all went buck wild. We were like this. Who is this girl? Oh my God! Oh my God! And we met backstage. That was back in
90 something,
93, 94.
Because we used to dance at the close of the show.
Because y'all would dance at the credits with because we met. That's when we met, because I was out there with Joe Torre and Martin and oh my gosh.
Because Buddy was writing, that's where we met.
Yeah.
Buddy was writing.
That's so crazy. And see, and I met Martin because Martin opened up for Guy when we were on tour. Right. So but I didn't know he was gonna call me up for that at all. Like I had no idea. He was like, just get up here. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's what you had the little fly hairdo. Oh, girl, you had the little fly hairdo and everything.
No, when you look at old baby pictures like that, like I know Salt and Pepper probably cringe when they look at some of their pictures. I cringe too. I look at some of these things and I'm like, oh my God, why did y'all tell me?
It was trend-setting.
It was a trend.
And there was nobody out there that looked like you. There was nobody out there that looked like Josie. There was when you saw Carolyn and Marilyn, when you saw Shane and Salima, everybody had their own distinct look, and I think back then, when you guys would dance, but whether it was Bobby, whatever, or Mary, y'all made a statement. Like when they did the, I don't know if they gave her a Lifetime Achievement. They gave her some kind of award, Mary, a few years ago, and they had them come out and kind of do all the songs and all that. When I saw the girls with the ponytails, I think of y'all. I came down to the video shoot. I think of y'all. It's like you guys were a staple, and it's not celebrated enough. Even with Marilyn and just thinking. And I remember when y'all did Remember the Time, I was so jealous. I was so mad because I had stopped dancing. I was so jealous. I was like, oh my gosh.
What was that like? I mean, you're dancing with an icon, a living legend, Michael Jackson.
Take us through the first few days.
And so tell us about that, because that video is iconic and you're in it. I mean, you are a feature in that video. So take us through dancing with the king of pop.
This is the shit that can you curse?
Yeah.
This is the shit that dreams are made of, right? So we find out, and we being the New York dancers find out that the audition is Saturday. I think it is either not Wednesday night, like Thursday morning, and the audition is on Saturday. So I'm like, Mom, you got to give me some money for a plane ticket. Like, I know I can book this job. It's Michael Jackson. Of course, she's just like, this dancing shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But already I'm like, Mom, one more tour, I can do it. I'm telling you. So God bless her. All of us ended up getting on flights and we go out there. So we knew Fatima was choreographing, but at the time, Fatima was like, listen, the director, John Singleton's got the final say. I can't promise anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to us, John Singleton was a fan of dancers. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing I learned in the industry is that people like Prince and Michael and Madonna, they knew who all of us were.
Yeah.
They knew who all of us were. They had seen us before. Hammer, all of them knew who
Yeah.
we were. We just didn't know that. So we get to the audition. There's like a gazillion people there. And then Fatima incorporates at some point Stretch and Henry Link and Loose Ends to help with like male choreography. And, unfortunately, they didn't get their credit. So I'm going to give it to them right freaking now.
Yeah. I can attest to that because as a mop top, I was like, that's our move.
Yep.
That's our move. I remember that.
Yep. So they also are choreographers, co-choreographers on this. So we, first of all, get a contract that's the size of like a phone book, right? Don't look at Michael. Don't talk to him. Don't ask about bubbles. Like nothing. You can't even whatever. So we get into rehearsal and we don't even see Michael. We rehearse, I think, for 2 weeks and we don't see Michael until he had private rehearsals with Fatima. And I think the guys are just Fatima and what's his name? Who was Frank Gatson. And Michael shows up like 2 days before we're supposed to actually go to set and shoot.
Yeah.
Now, he comes and he does a routine and blocks it for us. And we had been like, this is cute. Michael was like, what? Pow. And literally we were all standing there like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. So we had to literally go back in and like funk it up because our shit didn't look like his. Ours was all cute. La. Michael was like, ha!
Yeah.
Like he was killing it.
Right.
And so just to be in the room with him was just like all chills. And like you can't stop staring because you're just looking at his skin like, like this. Is that makeup? You're like, you don't know what to do.
Hysterical.
And as it happens, and I think you can attest to this, that all artists always end up wanting to hang out with the dancers.
Right.
All the time. We're the cool kids. They want to hang out with us because we're so unbothered. We're in the corner doing our thing. And that's what happened. Michael would hang out with us. He'd be over there, pop locking in. Show me that thing again. And, oh, man, that's fucking cool. He just cursed. And then you forget that he's human and it was really, really dope. But to be on that set, because first of all, right, you got John Singleton, who knows everybody and all the West Coast rappers and all this other stuff. You got Magic Johnson, so half the NBA is on the set. You got Iman. So then
Joe
all the
Torre
supermodels are all there. It's like everybody.
And Eddie Murphy.
Everybody. It was a swinging door. And I think to be able to go to Universal Studios, because that's where we shot on the lot, and not be like escorted off and actually have like a clothing rack with your name on it. And like you can walk into this place with the big gates. And like that was a big first for me. And that's probably when you almost feel like, I made it just a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I made it. And then that was when like MTV did big video debuts and stuff.
Yes.
We actually, didn't we watch it together?
Yes.
At the hotel, some hotel. It was
hotel
all of us.
It was a freaking phenom.
And we were,
when that video came out.
Yeah, you don't know what made the cutting room floor, what was going to happen. So you're all like this, and you can hear everybody screaming, you see Carolyn's hand, you see Marilyn, you see Tish breaking it in. Like we was like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Like it was crazy.
Rolo, everybody was in that video.
It was crazy. And right after that, John Singleton had myself, Josie, Tish, and Fatima move in with Janet because he was prepping her for Poetic Justice. Which is why you see her with Josie's braids.
Yes.
So that's a whole other thing that'll pop up in it.
That's Josie all the way, man. But I remember that time. That was the only time that since leaving dancing that I was really jealous. Like before that, I was like, because we were Mob Top, we were a group. We were gonna be rapping and doing all this stuff, and it was breaking us off into partners, and me and Khalif and Stretch, and I forget who it was, might have been Link. But we were supposed to write, get our stuff together, and then back then, we was all over the place. Khalif was like, "Yo, I'm going to the beach, son." I'm like, "Yo, come on, we gotta do this." And then I just started taking off and stand up, and then things happened. And I got where I live with Dougie Doug.
Mhm.
And then I just left. I was like, I'm out. And I remember dancing one of my last shows with Salt and Pepper, and I was sad. I was like, no. I was like, Cheryl, I'm gonna be a Salt and Pepper dancer forever. And Cheryl was like, Flex. She said, let me tell you something. You're gonna be fine. You going this?
Hysterical.
She was like, this is a stepping stone to this. She said, I love you, brother. Just go ahead and do what you got to do. And it was like once she did that, it was like, the gates opened and just everything took off, and I never danced again. But I always, in my heart, always and forever going to be a dancer. And that feeling of seeing myself in Crystal Waters' video, myself, Khalif, and Peter Paul, or seeing myself in Fly Girl or Latifah, which Omar Epps was a dancer in.
That's so crazy.
Yes, Omar Epps, and being able to we just had such a great community.
Yeah.
Like if we knew you were choreographing something, we'd come over to the set, just watch, you know what I mean, just support each other. It was just different. And a lot of these dancers now, and I have to tell the story about your boy Casper. We're doing Bo Casper, J-Lo's ex. We were doing a celebrity game. It was the influencers versus celebrities, which I was so confused.
This is recently?
This was a few years back.
Okay.
Yes, this was right in Hollywood. Well, not in Hollywood. It was like just off of downtown somewhere. So they introduced everybody, and they introduced AJ, and everybody screaming, and he's like, who is that? I'm looking at him, I'm like, and you're a dancer? You're a choreographer? You don't know who AJ Johnson is? Like, the house party, you don't... I was like, you don't know this? I said, man, I barely know who you are.
Oh,
I was
no,
like,
he did not say that.
I said, guess what? J-Lo does.
No, you didn't.
Mike drop.
Yeah.
Pick up your
And
teeth.
I meant it in the best of ways. I'm like, Nick, don't get it twisted. And a lot of these
That's
dancers,
hysterical.
Touche. In this age, don't understand the pavement that we broke for them. They have agents now. They got a union that protects them. We had none of that.
Right.
You couldn't say too much because you wouldn't get the job,
Right.
or you get fired.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what about this? Or what do I have? What about eating? What about none of that? Literally,
Where
you
do
get
I park?
Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't treat dancers with any respect. They were like,
Like
dancers
shit.
come a dime a dozen, we'll get the next person.
exactly.
Until we got to the level of they called us because they wanted us. And that was the only way I know for me, I was able to like name my price as a dancer, then
Yes.
switch over to choreography. The sad part now is that some of these dancers are probably not even making some of the money
No.
that I made then now. So even with all the agencies and the protection and stuff that they have, they're
Yeah.
still fighting
Yeah.
to make money. Like you saw the New York Times article about what's happening with the Super Bowl and
Right.
the 115 dancers they had last year, and half of them didn't get paid, and the volunteers and them crossing the line, and SAG got involved and all this other stuff. So the fight never ends.
Yeah, because they're an integral part. Let me tell you something. Dancers, you have the entertainers that are great. Not taking anything away from them, but dancers make it whole. When you start to remember dancers from dancing behind this one or in this video, like it's a different thing. They're helping that artist. You're lifting that. Like these tours, the Justin Timberlake tours, all these tours that take 20 dancers, 15 dancers, Janet's tour, like whomever. If they were out there by themselves,
Right.
it would not be the same.
Right.
Right.
And there's an
Period.
audience of people who come because there's the one who wants to be the drummer. There's the one who wants to be the guitar player. There's the
Right.
one who wants to be the lighting person. There's the one who wants to be the dancer or the creative director and all that stuff
Yeah.
in the audience. And there's
Yeah.
tons and tons of people there too.
Yeah.
And it was
Les-
a lot of movement too beyond that, right? Because think about it back then. When you watch the video, remember the time. I'm not a dancer. I can dance, but I'm not a dancer. Right. But when you saw that, you like, like you
Yeah.
immediately
Yeah.
were taken
Mhm.
and transported into being one of the dancers because it was so
Oh, yeah.
relatable. Videos, all of Janet Jackson's videos,
Yes.
choreography, all
Yes.
of Michael's
Yeah.
videos, choreography. That was a part of the package.
Yes.
Dancers were a part of it.
Part of
Now,
the package.
Yeah.
like, do they even dance?
Now it's crazy because it looks played now. Like having a bunch of dancers. I won't say played, but it's a different effect. It's just not the same during our time. And I hate to say our time, like it was, in the 40s, but
Right.
But during our time, it was different. It was celebrated. I mean, that's
It
what I
was
think.
celebrated. And I think we're part of the people who changed the face of dance in the sense of our physicality,
Yeah.
right? Because Flex, Peter Paul, Khalif, y'all are all over 6 feet tall.
Mhm,
Me,
mhm.
even as a gymnast, being 5'6", and then being one of the thicker dancers, and then doing all this, athletic stuff.
Mhm.
They hadn't seen any of that stuff before.
Yeah.
So that made people even more pay attention to that. We look like the around the way girl and guy, like my cousin and my, homeboy I went to school with.
Yeah.
Can get from the couch
Yeah.
onto the big screen. So I think we had a lot to do with that too.
Yeah.
Les, we also have an experience when you broke off into acting.
Yes.
For 30 weeks, Les and I were on a show called The Fabric of a Man with Shamar Moore, Clifton Powell.
You did that tour?
Yeah, she did this tour.
I was an
I did
She's
not
an
know
actress. And Cheryl Pepsi Riley.
Mhm.
I'm losing my mind. Oh, what was the pastor's name?
Cedric
and
Orlando.
and oh gosh, she killed me. My love interest. God dang it, I'm losing my mind.
It's only an hour show, buddy.
I know. She's gonna kill me. I'm losing my mind. But
It's all right. We can edit that part.
Yeah, we can edit that part. Edit that. We were on tour, and I'm gonna tell this. This is
I
one of the-
knew
this is the
it was
funniest-
not a safe place coming
this is
here.
not- this is- I won't tell the whole story, but Les, we were in Philly, and Les had to check the. They had to check the one of the play managers because she hadn't got her ticket straight. Because we used to lead a tour, because we would go because we would sometimes only go from Friday, when it would be shows Friday and Saturday,
Mhm.
because Shamar was still doing Young and the Restless, so he'd fly in on Friday and we would all leave, and Les would break out on Sunday. Les was gone, like I got a gig, and she'd be gone, and so man. When I tell you, one time, Les, she didn't get her ticket straight because they were all supposed to take care of our tickets to go back with. Man, Les, me and my boy dinner watching Les. Listen here, motherfucker, you better get my goddamn ticket straight. You motherfucker.
Oh, she got it in her.
That's when people take your kindness for weakness, right? And then they forget you from New York, you from Queens, and it's like, I'm nice until I'm not.
Yeah.
And now you messing with my family. They gave him tickets up in the rafters. I was about to go to jail that night.
Kiss Shamar and get my goddamn ticket. And I had to go off in Philly too. This was Les. And Les, was it you, Les? You told me, say, buddy, you out here laughing, and they out there selling T-shirts with your face on them.
Oh!
And me and the security guard, we went out. There's a dude out there selling like T-shirts.
Fabric of a Man.
Yeah, Fabric of a Man T-shirts.
Wow.
And I went, dude, how much are the shirts? He's like $20. I said, let me see them. So he gives me the whole thing. I take them all. I said, motherfucker, you ain't got my rights to put my picture on these T-shirts. And I took him all his T-shirts. And he was like, yo, man, what you doing? And I took about 30 shirts from him.
I was an interesting
Give me my cut.
tour.
Oh my God, we used to have so much fun.
We had so much fun.
Oh, it was crazy.
When did you get the call for Living Single? Like, did you know what it was? Or I know back then they were like, oh, it's just secret audition. Was it something like that? And you just had to go and audition?
No, what happened is I was on tour, I think, either with Bobby or with Heavy.
Mhm.
And I knew that Spike Lee was getting ready to do Malcolm X. And they were having auditions for dancers, and they were doing my favorite era of dance, which is Lindy Hop.
Yeah, Lindy Hop. Yeah.
And so I couldn't make the audition. By the time I got off tour, they were already in rehearsal. And I think Lorianne was in it. So I got to go to the rehearsal. She introduced me to Otis Salid, who was a directographer.
Oh,
you know
I
him
love
from like
Otis
School
Salid,
Days. He
yes.
did Good and Black Hair
Yeah,
and I Don't Want to Be
yeah.
Alone Tonight and stuff. And so we met, but it was too late for me to come in. He was really gracious about it. So I'm like, all right. I ended up doing some extra work on the movie. And then next thing you know, I get a call and he's on the other line. And you're like, Otis, what? Wait, what? So he's
Yeah.
like, I have this idea. I don't have the job yet, but I really think that I could sell it to the network. I want to do the open. Queen Latifah's got this show, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't heard anything about it. I was like, bet. He's like, only you can do this, whatever. So we go into the Brooklyn Bridge. We're there. It's cobblestone all day. I'm back flipping all day long till the sun comes down. And so then I finally see the final edit. There's 2 edits, and one of them has like a front flip. The other one has no flips at all. Right. So I was like, wait a minute, I've been back flipping all day, because in my brain, I think that's, my whole signature. But he's the genius. So everything that Otis touches and shoots, and he's a visionary. And so once they showed it to them, they was like, bet, we're going to take it. We love it.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it happened. So they sent over the paperwork, and, that's it. And I tried to get on that show for years. They wouldn't even see me. They wouldn't even let me audition at all.
And Carol Dennis, I'm sorry. I love you, Carol Dennis. I forgot your name.
Oh, hi, Carol.
He had to Google that.
I had to Google it.
So they wouldn't even, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So because that opening was so iconic and you were so recognizable, you think that's why?
I don't know. And sometimes too, when you're trying to transition from dancing to acting, you have to make the dancing go away. You have to almost make it seem like you never were a dancer and that you're strictly an actor. And you've seen it with J-Lo. Like the dancing had to disappear for people to take her serious as Selena. Right. So I think they were like, oh, she's just a dancer just trying to get in. And at that time, it was just the beginning of like hip hop artists getting into acting, because we want them on the soundtrack and we want their audience and that kind of a thing. And it's crazy now because Yvette Lee Bowser is on my page all the time commenting and stuff. We've actually never met in person. We've only talked now on DM or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, I thought they were going to do a reboot of the show, not just reruns, but a whole thing. But I guess there's a whole lot of politics going on. And Otis had talked to me about, well, if they do it, then let's do a redo a different open. I was like, okay.
You're stretching.
But you have to, right? Because even again, as a consumer, I feel like that's when everybody knew your name specifically. We'd be like, oh, that's Big Liz. Like everybody knew, all of like young girls, whether you danced or not, entertainers, or just watching the show because you loved Living Single. To a point, that was just as important as the cast. Like to us.
It really, honestly, sitting back, it was almost like you were a part of that show.
The cast, right.
You got to think about it. Like, that's like, thank you for being a friend.
Right.
That's what that's like.
I guess it didn't feel like that for me because it wasn't inclusive. Like it was just them four, and I never got to be any other part of the show or anything with them.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of around the time where I transitioned out of dance and into television and then radio. So,
But she makes a good point. You can't think of that show without the opening.
You can't.
And seeing the dancing, it's impossible.
You can't.
It's like you can't take that out of your mind, like and it's like, okay, that's Lez. It's just you were part of the show because see what you don't realize is that the opening was the opening for the show, so you on every show.
Yeah.
So you became a part of the show and the cast as well. So, because I was all excited. I was like,
I'm sure you were, because to see the way you're acting now.
The blessing now with social media is that there are people who remake it all the time, and they send it to me. I don't know if you've seen me post it. They send me their version of it all the time, and it is the biggest compliment.
Now, doing that took off. What led you into the world of the female VJ, because that's what they call them back then, the video jockeys. You worked for MTV, BET. You've interviewed some iconic people like just Biggie. I mean, everyone. Who first tell us what that journey was, and second, who were some of your favorite interviews?
I got that job because I got called to be a guest on Madeline Wood's show, Video LP at the time. So they had me dance on her show, and then I got the couch, so she got to talk to me.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, as we're talking, she's realizing, or the people upstairs are realizing, because we spent so much time on tour and in rehearsals with these artists, that we knew things that they didn't know. We didn't have the internet then. They couldn't look it up, but we had relationships with their family, their kids. We seen them without their lashes, their wigs. Like I had stories upon stories. Yeah. So the producer, Keith Paschal and Sanita Brooks, came downstairs and was like, we want to audition you for the show. Can you stay? I was like, hell yeah, I'll stay. Yeah. And so they had me audition with Kenny Burns, if you guys know it, Atlanta.
Oh, yes,
he's a major radio guy now. And Kenny didn't get it, but I got it. But then they also had to sell me to the powers that be upstairs, upstairs for two reasons. One, because females in hip hop, the only other person was really Dee Barnes from Pump It Up.
Right.
And most females didn't really have voices, or if you see with the rappers, like they have to be ushered in with somebody, right? Foxy got to come with Jay-Z and the whole Rockefeller crew, or, you know, that whole thing. And the second is because the powers that be upstairs didn't particularly care for how I looked. I wasn't the one that made their penises hard upstairs. So it was like, they don't know if they really want to see her, whatever. And because Keith and Sunita fought for me, they teamed me up with Prince Dejour. We did like one of our first shows. I think it was like Jackson, Florida spring break or spring fling or whatever it was. And I got to interview Outkast for the first time.
Wow.
And a couple other people who knew me as a dancer. So that really became my calling card, was that once the labels found out, or the artists who I danced for or who had seen me around was like, nah, we want Lez because I know their journey.
Right.
They were on the open mic over there while I was back flipping over there. So we knew that we were all broke, hungry, didn't have deals or anything then. And that's the saving grace, was that the record labels were asking for me specifically once they saw me doing the show. And so I got to do like, a Biggie first, I don't know if I did. I think I did Tupac probably before Joe. Joe got the last interview that we ever see of Tupac. But I got to do like iconic people. You know, some of my best conversations really back then were with the legends. I was about to say something else. EPMD, Ice-T, DJ Premier. Like those guys had information about their journey, about, you know, the politics of the business and all that other stuff. Then it was also that era of like, the rappers who was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? Who didn't have nothing to say.
Right.
But I think for me, my era of Rap City and Joe's era of Rap City is that we got to go to other places. We got to go to like Houston, Texas, where Lil J and all of them, you know, were shooing whatever. We got to go to Chicago and hang out with like Common for real, or to the West Coast. And Dub C gave me my first lowrider ride. And we went to Jamaica to hang out with like Beanie Man and Capleton and, you know, all those people. So Rap City at that time was traveling, and BET was really surprisingly good to me the first 2 years because I was still dancing. So they let me shoot while I was in these different cities, which meant they didn't have to pay for like transportation.
Of course.
They just set up the shots and all that other stuff, and I could do it. And then at some point it just became too much and I had to choose. And I'm like, well, I wasn't ready to leave dance, but if I don't take this opportunity, you know, and the life of a dancer is very, very short. And I think at that time too, because I had been doing gymnastics since the age of 10, that it was just like, all right, well, it's time to transition. And so I was still choreographing, but not dancing as much. And then Rap City turned into radio because Wendy Williams in New York at Hot 97 got put on probation. So they had me come in, you know, they have guest DJs come in. So I covered her show for a week. Turned out to be a huge success. They offered me weekends, and then they offered me mornings with Dr. Dre and Ed Lover. So I did that for a while. And then Big Boy in LA was on Power 106 and needed a co-host. So then they brought me out there to test with him.
I remember that.
And that's what brought me back to LA. So I did that show for a little less than a year, because then I got a deal from across the street in 92.3 The Beat and wanted me to do middays. And so then I switched and went over there for a few years, and then back and forth to New York, did Sirius, Hot Jams, came back, Steve Harvey Morning Show, like, you know, and still choreographing in between, you know. And what's crazy is that Rap City, I was on that show for like 7 years. I still made more money as a dancer and a choreographer than I did as a host and becoming producer on that show.
Wow.
Listen, I know. I was Teen Summit was mine. And really, and when I saw what they were offering, I was just like, man, I was with stand-up at the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm making, you know, in a week, I'm making $5,500, you know, to $6,000 between doing, you know, 2 shows a night. Some shows I'm getting $1,500, some I'm getting $2,000, some I'm getting $500. It's like, there's no way I'm doing it. And I got to drive myself down, and I got to put myself up. I'm like, nah, no, thank you. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It was great. And again, taking nothing away from BET and what it did. We got on the map in so many ways. Again, with you and with videos and all that stuff. What was I think I know, but one of the most uncomfortable interviews, R. Kelly, Aaliyah, God rest her soul. Was that a tough one?
No, actually that one wasn't. It was probably when I first started doing Rap City was what was uncomfortable, which is crazy. And it came from like my friends, which is Kid and Play. And this is when I learned that like what's on the cue card or whatever your cards is not more important than listening, right? So I'm so fixated on the card and asking questions that he had already answered 3 of the questions that I'd asked. So when I asked him the questions, he's like, so you weren't listening? I already said that. And he said it to me on camera. And I was like, never again will I ever get played like that. And so I cursed him out. Of course, we're still the best friends, but you know. But that was hard. That when I did Denzel for the first time.
Really?
The Preacher's Wife, I think it was. Was it Preacher's Wife? I can't remember what it was. But that, having to do him for the first time, was nerve-wracking. The R. Kelly Aaliyah situation was a shit show, so to speak, because they had been building it up for weeks and weeks and weeks and having all these meetings about they're coming. Right. And you know, you can't do like what's called payola in radio, right? The paper bag thing, but they do swaps. Whereas if you perform at our Christmas show, then we'll play your record, we'll play your video. If you come perform at the whatever BET Award show, whatever, it was all of that going on. And because I had been on tour with R. Kelly, with Heavy D and who was it? Coolio and Warren G, I kind of knew how he got down because I'm around all of that stuff. And everybody knew. So they had conversations with myself and Brett Walker at the time because both of us did the interview about.
Shout out to Brett.
Don't ask that question. You know, but you could tell me and Brett had a discussion that if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else who asked this question. And then they came dangling the carrot in our face, dressing like twins and the whole bit. It was like, man, nigga, we're going to do this and just break, but you know, the best to happen. And I was like, at least let's just do it lighthearted and kind of playful. So I treaded lightly, as you could tell. I did it kind of jokingly, and they were prepared and ready for it, you know? And what's crazy is that like, before the documentary came out that Dream Hampton did, I got a call from the Washington Post. Now, this was maybe 3 years ago. And I'm like, why are you calling me about R. Kelly? And I'm not knowing anything new has happened, that all these cases and stuff had happened. But I knew of the history. I knew they were married. I knew, you know, her and Fatima were best friends. Like I knew, the publicists knew, the parents, everybody knew. They want to act like they don't, but it's a cash cow and nobody wants to mess with the money. So when they called me from the Washington Post and he's asking me all these questions, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then Dream calls me to have me come be on that show. And I was like, what? And I had to really start looking to see that there's all these cases that resurrected. And what's crazy is I just came from my apartment in New York and I'm going through all this archive footage. And I have 2 articles from the New York Post and the Daily News from 2002 that were R. Kelly was arrested then for, and I was like, yo, this is crazy that this is 20 something years later or whatever. So, but that it was only a tough interview, leaving to make sure I didn't get fired after. That was the only part that made it tough.
Because when I saw that, I was like, when I saw her doing that interview, I was like, oh my God, how is she going to navigate this? And you're right, you did it in a light way. It was fun. I think you guys
got your Oprah on.
Yeah, you handled it well.
You tried. We were still rookies
you wasn't trying
too,
to
but
stick it to it. You know, it was just like, you was like, so what's up with that? You know, and I think it they had to know it was coming in some way, and I think
dressed like they was going to.
I
remember that. Dressed like they could Magic Mountain.
Matching
like they prom dates.
I think it may have, it disarmed them a little bit, and they were cool with it. Has there ever been any job you've ever been fired from?
Well, I mean, I got let go from radio, but that, I mean, I don't think it was to my fault because I had great ratings, but like Radio 1, I think, bought the station at that time. And so it was like myself, the Baker Boys, Theo, we all got let go.
Like dancing wise.
Oh, yes!
Dancing wise.
I got fired. Me and Josie got fired from CC Peniston.
Oh, see,
they handpicked us.
She said, walk on.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. No, that's exactly what happened. We had a show, or we had like 3 shows in one night. Killed it. Small clubs, the house clubs, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, back and forth, whatever. Next thing you know, they're like, after the end of the night, they're like, okay, well, we won't be using girls anymore. We was like, wait, what? They were like, "Nah, you guys stole the show from
Yeah,
CC.
you outshining
We're not-
CC.
we can't have this." And we're like, "Well, we can water it down. You guys came to us because we can dance." No, you're doing too much. It was too much. The crowd is there to see her and they're seeing whatever, and they just let us go.
Wow.
So we only worked for her like that one night. Actually, I'm trying to think. We must
finally.
And it had to
Got
be.
rid
I'm
of
trying to
y'all.
remember because I choreographed the Walk On By video
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, myself, Voodoo Ray.
Yeah.
Lori Ann's in that video.
Yeah.
So it either had to happen before or Millicent Shelton brought me back
Right.
to choreograph. I can't remember the order of
Now,
events.
were
but-
you there when I got fired from Keith Sweat? Were you dancing then or no? It was Maryland.
Oh, what do I mean?
You didn't tell us about the Keith.
I know.
Keith
I
Sweat
know.
fire.
Yeah,
Tell
you
us.
ain't, meant,
Yeah.
you ain't talked about
Yeah,
your little
so-
fire.
He's an interesting
Yes, I love
individual.
him. But you know, he's very particular. So anyway, I had been, doing sound checks, because I had my Keith Sweat joke. It was in my comedy set, and I'd be like, oh, so you can understand what he's saying. When I'm like, oh yeah, so anyway, I would do that during sound check. Some sound checks he wouldn't come until later or whatever. So I was doing it just lighthearted, and the crew loved it. So I'm hamming it up. So there was a dancer who used to dance for Hammer named Actifool.
Oh my God.
And this dude was just,
Was he the one with the thin
The-
hair with the head?
There was a couple of
not
them.
that
Oh,
one.
okay,
This was
okay.
like-
He had the blonde.
Yeah, blonde
polka
stripe,
dots.
right?
yes,
the stripes.
him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The other one was No Bones.
No
That
bones,
was with
right?
Hammer.
Okay, that's right.
So Actifool. So I guess he went and he told. He went literally and was like, yeah, he's doing such and such. So I didn't notice till after. So anyway, we're in South Carolina or one of the Carolinas at a base, a military base. We do a show. We getting ready, boom, we marking the show. Boom, boom, go back to the room, getting ready, get a knock. And yeah, who is it? It's Phil. Phil Robinson. Phil came up. And when you saw Phil, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, Phil, what's up, man? What's going on? He said, yeah, man. We need to roll out. I'm like, yo, the show ain't, till later to tonight. He's like, not for you. Not for you.
Phil was like the Grim Reaper. For
Yeah,
real.
guy, you saw Phil.
He's the
Turk.
Turk.
How'd you get my ticket already?
He already has your suitcase.
had my
Your
ticket.
suitcase
I'm
packed.
like, got my stuff, and I'm talking. This is the show is 7:30. This is maybe 4 or something. And he fired me. Went back, but you know what? It lit a fire under me because this was after I had danced with Salt and Pepper, and I was kind of going back and forth, and I was like, man, do I really want to go full on with stand up? And that pushed me.
Mhm.
And I remember telling Keith, I had Keith on our reality show on OWN, and I told him, I said, yo, you pushed me. I said, because I said, I'll never be in a position where anybody could fire me like that again.
Mhm.
And he was like, yeah, man, your ass, you just didn't listen, man. You just, you was always joking. So cut to Microsoft Theater here. Me and wifey go. It's him. I forget who else it is. Maybe Charlie Wilson, whatever. I'm in the front. He sees me. He's like, oh, shit. Yo, come on up here, man. Y'all give it up for Flags, yo. I get up. I'm standing on stage. He's like, man, it's my little brother here, man. You know what I'm saying? I had to fire his ass in front of everybody. Like, you still got to try to embarrass me, right? Still. I was like, it's all good though, Keith. But I told him, I said, man, you pushed me. You pushed me. Yeah. That was the worst feeling ever, man. Getting fired from a gig, man. Especially dancing. When you knew we were so dope. We were so dope. It was like, what?
And at that time too, you're surviving from gig to gig to gig
Literally.
to gig, and with no safety net. So you really just don't you can't even enjoy the gig you're in because you're too busy looking for the next gig 10 steps ahead.
Yeah. It was, it put us in, I won't say survival mode, but we had a different hunger. It was a different hunger because there was a time where, like you said, people would come looking for you. But then there was a time where you hey, yo, what's up, man? Yo, y'all need dancers? Like, y'all looking for that. There was a time that hit like that you really had to try to figure it out. And just like your mom, my mom, my grandmother was always like, oh, just get a regular job. I mean, you went to school for architecture, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, but this is my passion. And I'm thankful to my mom, just as I know you are with your mom, that, they, as foolish kids we may have been, they allowed us to live out our passion
Absolutely.
and chase our dreams. You know what I mean? Now, when it comes to choreography and routines or an artist you've worked with, what would you say was some of your best work? Like top to bottom, like boom.
I think it's interesting because I think some of my best work probably never got shown. So I can't say like it was like the Real Love or You Remind Me video or I don't know. It might have been some of like the stage shows like for Bobby Brown or Heavy D that I choreographed, like the tours as opposed to like the videos. Some of that stuff that a lot of people
now
didn't
tell
get to
people
see.
let people know what you actually choreographed, like the stage shows, the tours that you did.
So April Thomas did most of the Keith Sweat stuff. I think I did just a little bit towards the end, and that was my very first tour. I did Mary J. Blige, Real Love, and You Remind Me, and then I got hired for Bobby Brown, and so I gave Lorianne Mary's gig.
Wow.
So she better make sure she, gives me my props. And then I choreographed for guys like I think Dog Me Out. And then we also danced for Aaron Hall at that time too. And somewhere in there, I danced with Father MC. So I think I choreographed 69, or me and Fatima may have done that together. So there were a lot of collabs and stuff then too. And how I got into choreography is, if you remember Donovan.
Yes.
Donovan, what is Donovan? Henry.
Donovan Henry.
Used to hire a lot of dancers and choreographers and stuff, but he would always show up to rehearsal ill prepared.
Yes.
And so I come from being, I used to choreograph floor routines and gymnastics and stuff. And so you show up ready with the 5, 6, 7, 8. And his method was, all right, y'all, I need a 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then you start to realize, wait a minute, he's getting paid and he's getting credit.
Exactly.
What? And so then, because I was always a featured dancer in the front, people started to assume that I was the choreographer. So I was like, yes, yeah, I choreograph, yes. And that's kind of how I transitioned into that. But that's a hard question because I don't even remember half the stuff. Like, there was like American Music Awards with Bobby Brown or Billboard Awards, that like those things that you don't get to see repetitively. But I remember like rehearsals in those moments, and those when award shows were really good, fun,
man, just
meaty. So a lot of the tour stuff I think was probably some of my best work for like Heavy D, Bobby, and Guy.
And you think tour probably because it was less restrictive than award shows, or not say less clean, you know what I mean? It was more raw.
It was raw. It was a bigger platform.
Right.
You could use the stage. You had to like deal, and this is when you learn, right? This was like school for me. So you deal with the soundboard, the lighting guy, the tech guy, the smoke guy, the fire guy, like all these things that you just can't even imagine is part of your new world. But now it's in my arsenal because I'm like, okay, I'm learning as I go along. And who knew that this was, So I think as I'm moving into my next venture, which is, directing and working on these dance projects, I didn't realize that was school for me. So now it's like all in my arsenal, which is great.
That's
so
the same
with that,
thing,
what's next? Right. What is next? You said you're choreographing, directing. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah. It started off as what I was going to do is a dance documentary about the females of the golden era of hip hop.
Yeah.
If you saw 20 Feet from Stardom, which is about the background singers, we are the exact same thing.
Yes.
It's now kind of transitioned into a limited series of different genres of women of the 90s. I'm trying not to give too much away, but in different. So I have dancers and choreographers, but then it'll be maybe label executives or whatever. So I have like 8 episodes and stuff. So I'm trying to pitch that right now. And props to Kevin Swain, who is a director. So he's decided to come on board with me to like help me out and use his name so that people can take me seriously as a director, and he'll stand by me and stuff.
That's that Debbie Allen thing. I mean, I'm sure that's how you transition from choreographing videos or dance things and to because it is a form of directing. You just directing a dance. I mean, it's not much more to, hey, okay, the camera needs to pick this up and do this, because I mean, I think choreographers probably make great directors.
No,
I would think it's just a natural kind of transition for you.
I believe we make some of the best directors, right? Because we're so pay attention to detail and precision and the visuals. And there's only a few directors even that we came up with who know how to shoot dance. Not everybody can shoot dance too. So that's the whole thing. And having lived what we lived and being on the forefront, like we have stories from, you know, the Fly Girls and from this and what really happened behind the scenes with Janet and the whole, you know, the sex scandals and the casting couch and the this and the racism and the like all of that stuff. And so I was able, so far I've had like Teddy Riley and Otis Salid and a couple other people do interviews and stuff for me where we really talking about that stuff. The girls from Straight Ahead, like there was some shit behind the walls of BBD, you know, about whether it was about pay or about having to wear sexy clothes or not, or, you know. Yeah. So there's a lot to uncover there. And so hopefully.
And I have to say this because I was a part of this. When they were auditioning for that new Fly Girl, Lez, like, listen, Rosie was doing it. She called in Omar Lopez and myself to assist her, do the choreography. You know, she would, you know, give the counts, and we just do it with I think it was 4,000 girls came out, something like that, at the Palladium. And wow. I mean, we routine over. Oh, I mean, just Les, and I'm like, Les got this. Like, I know, and again, not taking anything away from Jennifer Lopez, but I just gotta say, I was really shocked because I thought that was you. I said, Les is gonna be the new Fly Girl, because it only made sense because everyone knew Les. It was like the next step was like, yo, that's gotta be Les. But it just shows, you know, how things sometimes they take that turn. You know what I mean? And I still feel like you persevered. I still feel like you still have done some of the most iconic work in the game.
Thank you. But those are the things that like could break your spirit, right? Because that's the job that really hurt my heart that I didn't get. Yeah. Because I'm in a room with girls that I knew I danced better than. Like, if I don't know if you remember the Channel 7 News, Channel 5 News, I had flipped all across the room again. They were all interviewing me. And then Rosie pulled me aside and asked me, can you lose 10 pounds? I was like, Jennifer's bigger than me. What you talking about? Right. And then you know it's about something else, right? We forget about the aesthetics of it all. Yeah. And the choice of the man. So that was the whole thing. And I was broken to pieces behind that. But that's why it's like you can't quit because you don't know what's behind closed doors. And literally 3 months later, I got Rap City. Yeah. So that was the blessing.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about right there. You know what I'm saying, buddy? Got to persevere. Got to keep going.
Yeah, that's what I tell my refrigerator. I got to persevere.
I thought he was gonna say that's what I tell my young girl.
I did. Right. I did too.
I thought you was going there.
Y'all are nasty. That's where your minds are. You want me to hook up with some of your friends, and you want me to.
I want you to visit my area again.
Shut up.
I want you to visit my area again. I almost said
waiting.
Well, look, man.
Don't you jump in this, Les. You stay out of this.
Listen, Les, it has been amazing.
Under this table.
It's been amazing. I'm so thankful again for you coming. Thank you, my friend. I love you. I appreciate you. And again, I just wanted to celebrate you, man, because people don't know all this information you just dropped. People don't know. They might see little interviews here and there, but I just wanted to, we wanted to just have that platform where you can just tell your whole story. And I know there's so much more.
We have so much
more
stories.
You got to come back.
Whatever.
Yes,
but I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of us. Yes. I'm so proud of this journey because literally we were just hungry, hanging out in Washington Square Park, broke AF.
Man,
how are we gonna make it? What does this look like? Yes. And still the struggle for the dancers is real out there.
And shout out to Play. For Play Martin for And I Dance.
And I Dance, right.
He did a documentary on that era of dancers, and which was so important. I know it was hard for him to pick, like, what do you put? Because it could have been 3 or 4 hours long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could have been a 5-parter, with all the history there. But I want to definitely give him a shout out because he was one who said, hey, we need to recognize, folks like us who.
Yeah. And that's going to be the struggle, especially me coming after that, or the approach that I'm trying to take with, highlighting these women. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't get to everybody. So I have to find a way to do an honorable mention or something.
Right. It's going to work out. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see you do that. Now, can you tell everybody, look right there, let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
All right, y'all. You can find me on Flex's page. No,
On a date with Buddy.
Buddy.
what?
I'm sorry.
I am Leslie Segar, LesLieSegar on all platforms, and my ratchet page, Your Girl Les, Lez, in case I curse somebody out over there. But or lesliesegar.com, all the updates are all over the place. That's where I'm at.
Buddy?
You can find me back on Instagram. I am back. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back.
Got 2 followers already.
The real Buddy Lewis jokes on Instagram, Buddy Lewis jokes on Twitter and Facebook. Hit me up. I'm trying to get my followers up. I got about 10 right now. Used to have about 15,000. So y'all need to get on back in there. Get on back in there. Hit Buddy up.
Y'all, please follow Buddy. Please. You can find me at Kennelia on social media, all sites. You can also listen to me, Black News Podcast, available on all apps where podcasts can be heard.
And Kennelia is an amazing stand-up. Can we talk about that? You can talk about any of your stand-up stuff.
I got some shows later on. Check my website, Kennelia.com. I got show dates and details.
I want to go to a show.
Yeah, yes, you got to go.
Yeah, definitely come.
And you can follow me at Flex A For Real on Instagram, on Twitch, on TikTok. And even though my kids say I'm too old to be on TikTok. And Flex Alexander on Facebook. Again, thank you for sticking around. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Tell a friend. We get some heat on this show. We got some historic, iconic people on this show. We'll see you again. Right now, we're going to hit you with the ghetto beat.
Yeah, I got to go to my sleep study.